welcome everybody, whether it's your first time or multiple times. I haven't done one of these since July. Been quite a lot going on. I'll check in with you at the end about the future of these, because there's a lot of developments happening at the moment. So I'll share more news about that later. But the way that I normally run these is I have a theme that comes up, and we'll start with a brief guided meditation. So I'll guide you into that 10-15 minutes max. That theme will come out in the meditation, and then if you've got any burning questions, then we'll take those then. So we've got about an hour and a quarter, and we'll take it from there. So if everybody's good to go, just get yourselves nice and comfortable. And gently closing your eyes. And simply, silently accepting everything that's here now. Without any judgment. And just simply witnessing whatever phenomena are here. Just like you're watching a movie from the inside. Feelings, emotions, breath, sensations, thoughts, just all being silently, effortlessly watched, witnessed. Nothing you have to do. And just simply now, without trying to visualize, just be open from your heart. To connect with the energy of spheres of light. And just be open. And this energy of spheres of light is the same as the pure universal state. I am pure being. This sense of pure being is also witnessed seen from what I call the silent witness in infinite silence. Merging with this witnessing presence. Silently, effortlessly, and this silent witness is like a sliver of ice in an ocean, and it's melting, dissolving, becoming one with the ocean. And the ocean is an ocean of infinite silence. Merging completely one with this silence. Simply, silently, effortlessly aware. In silence, you will realize truth. In truth, you will realize you are silence, infinite silence, infinite awareness. This rarefied atmosphere of silence transforms transmutes dissolves all that you are not. Effortlessly, silently. Be still and know this silence. Awareness. Being open to knowing we can have the experience of choosing inner peace. Why would you not choose it? It is the perfume of your very essence. Eternally. In a moment, I'll ring the singing bowl. Remaining aware of the chair you're sat in, whatever you may be lay on, aware of your body, aware of the space, and even when the time is right for you, gently opening your eyes. This awareness remains. Good. Good. So, anything burning for anybody from that or before the call that you would like to ask or share? Now's your opportunity to do so. If you can pop up your hand on the is it on the reactions? I can't remember now. You can either stick a thumbs up on the reactions, or there's another thing where you can put your hand up somewhere. So, Helan.
Good morning.
Nice to speak to you at last.
Hi. Yeah, you too, finally, after 4 years.
So,
What an amazing meditation that was.
yeah,
The beginning of it was I was shown a crown being placed on my head. Yeah. And the next thing that was given to me was higher power.
excellent.
Awareness, pure light, and trust.
Perfect.
Hmm.
Is there a question in that at all, or is it just a...
Not really. There's not a lot that I need to say on that.
No,
It
okay.
just came out so purely. It was amazing.
Excellent.
Mm,
Thank you for sharing.
thank you.
Yeah. So there's quite a lot of symbolism there in what you shared, the crown being placed on your head and
Mm,
the awareness and the other things that you shared.
right.
That for me, it's a bit like dream language. Sometimes these things come out of the meditative space as a gift from the silence, and they're all, whilst you don't want to get lost in the phenomena or analysing them, everything that you pointed there shared to me and to be an opening from within to the silent awareness, or the infinite silence, as I call it. The crown thing is a bit like, is representative of the crown chakra, which is something that opens up the more that you deepen into awareness.
It's exactly what was given was the chakra crown.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Wow.
that to me is a symbolic indication of opening taking place from within, and that's an invitation, if you like, to embrace that which you are seeking, that which everybody is seeking, is already here within you. It is
Mm,
you. So this is a very, very beautiful thing, and the fact that you felt that beauty and the way you described it, that's what I sensed there. And the word trust is also important, because it's in trusting this inner presence, the power. You used the word power at one point. In the inner power, the infinite silence, the infinite awareness, the infinite consciousness that's within. That trust eventually be- becomes what I call the highest form of trust, which is a knowing. It means it basically turns into not having to trust at all. It just becomes an experiential knowing, a realizing that essence is within us and is us always. Is that all making sense for you, Helan?
absolutely. I didn't understand the pure light that
Yeah.
came in. It was pure light.
So pure light would be, for me, would point to, I used the phrase spheres of light at one point. That's a phrase that came to me back in 2011 as the first part of the realization. It's so the silence itself, the infinite silence, the infinite awareness, the infinite consciousness, is before and beyond all phenomena, beyond space, time, form, being, contrast. And it's, if you like, first manifest expression I refer to as spheres of light. It's very pure, powerful, creative energy. If you can imagine the universe as an infinite sphere, then the spheres of light, and
Mm,
it's spheres because it's multidimensional and multifaceted. In the East, in India, they would refer to this as Hiranyagarbha, the golden egg or golden womb of creation, and it's often associated with light as well. So that in itself is an entry point to the self realization of the self, but it's also a portal into the manifest realms, the physical realm that we experience.
mm,
Consciousness is basically a triality: infinite silence, in my language, spheres of light, the pure state I am, universal, non-personal I am, and form, our physical form, the physical domain. This is what's called the 3-in-1, and that pure light is part of that.
Mm.
All good for you?
Beautiful, thank you.
Yeah. So keep on trusting that inner space, and the more that you deepen into that, the realization flowers.
Lovely.
Good.
Thank you, thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. So yeah, I think you just have to tap that thing again to bring the hand down. I noticed that we've temporarily lost Heather partway through that, so I think she's back in now. So hopefully she is. So anybody else got anything they want to share or ask from that meditation or anything else? Nicole, I can see, has got her hand up. Yeah, so off you go, Nicole.
All right. Well, it's kind of similar. It's not really a question. It's just I saw this big eye that I've seen before many times. It's very faint, and it's kind of pointing to that awareness is everywhere is kind of what my sense is with that. And everything and no thing is awareness. And that's the eye visual, the universal eye.
Yeah. The infinite non-personal I.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
So
very
that's,
beautiful and buzzy feelings.
yeah.
And then also I had a sore throat, and it could tell it was like buzzing right there and trying to like, I don't know what, it's not really trying, it's just there. And like, yeah, just like a buzzy feeling, like trying to cure the throat or something, but I don't know if it's trying to do anything. Just, I was open to it, basically. I was open to it, and then yeah. I hope that makes sense.
It does make sense. Yeah. Yeah. So there could be many sort of symbolic things that can appear in meditation. Sometimes there's nothing at all, and sometimes there's something like this. But the sense I have from what you've said and your experience of it, it's, it is true. Awareness is always here, and it's everywhere, and it's never not here. And the awareness that we're speaking of here is not personal. It's universal. And everything in consciousness is an appearance in front of or within that field of awareness. So consciousness is also like a green screen in the movies. And you can project anything onto a green screen on a movie. And consciousness is like that. But that which we truly are is the witness to it all. And our body-mind experience is like having a car. You're not your car. You are the power behind it. So that's what I see being shared there. And the thing with the throat, somebody once asked on a live stream, you've probably heard this one, Nicole, anyway, but for everybody, they asked the question, can silence awareness heal? The short answer to that is yes, it can heal anything. That's because this infinite silence is the very power source of the universe. So the fact that you can feel something physically going on in your throat there is an indication that energy is effortlessly dissolving whatever it is that's the cause behind that. Every physical manifestation ultimately is a manifestation of something in consciousness, And when we're experiencing something like a sore throat or whatever it is, usually that would indicate there's some blockage there at some level. At some level, that doesn't mean that we don't rely on things like traditional medicine and stuff like that. Of course, that's also an aspect of consciousness. And if you've broken your arm or something like that, then you're probably going to want to do something about it, like go to the hospital. But the power of this silence ultimately is infinite. Anything else for you, Nicole?
That's all. Thank you so much.
Good. So anybody else burning to share anything or ask anything? This is your opportunity, folks.
I just wanted to share that before this session I had lots of rubbish going on, and your meditation effectively quieted it. So now it's very silent. I really have nothing to say. I'm just in the zone.
So there was lots of noise beforehand, and now it's gone quiet. Yeah.
Really lovely.
Excellent, Stefan. Thank you for sharing that. This can actually be quite a common experience when there's a lot of noise happening. Sometimes people feel energetically in the build up to an event or a gathering like this. There can be all sorts going on energetically for them, and it's almost like the identity self that actually we've believed and perceived ourselves to be is kind of fighting, resisting, but you show up anyway and you're open. And with that openness, the noise can dissolve. Because this silent awareness, this infinite silence, it's never not here. All that's happening here is we're realizing something that ultimately is so blindingly obvious. It's like that phrase we have in English, you can't see the wood for the trees. It's right there, and we miss it. But then we open to this, and then, this silence, this awareness is just simply here. Just simply here. And your essence is it. Is that okay for you, Stefan? Yeah, good, thank you. Anybody else, folks? Don't be shy.
I did have a question. I wanted to know, I've been following your day 7 guided meditation for about 3 months every day now,
Right.
and I find it very effective. But I'm wondering if um, should we continue? Should I continue with that, or should I have also just silent meditation?
Good question. So that day 7 one is a YouTube one, I think, that you're probably referring to.
Yes.
Email, yeah. So what I did with those, just to sort of give everybody a bit of context, it was a series of live streams, one after each other, and with less and less guidance. And day 7, in theory, had less guidance. And it sounds like you've been using that quite a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And if you've got to the point where you're familiar with that now, it certainly, if you feel open to it, then you could try meditating without that guidance and see what emerges. Because all of the guided meditations I provide ultimately are to get you to the point where you don't need that guidance.
Mm-hmm.
And it's about the way, the guidance I use in the meditations, like the one tonight, are really all pointings to recognize this silent witnessing presence that's already here. And that's it. So the best, the most effective, ultimately, meditation is complete stillness and silence without any guidance.
Mhm.
But because I speak to people all over the world who are at different points in their journey, some may be literally brand new to this, and others may have been, as in some cases, been on the path for 50 years. I use a certain amount of guidance as sort of as a midway point, if you like. So the short answer is try it. Just try meditating in silence without that guidance. See where that takes you. And if you need to go back to it, then you can go back to remind yourself. But really, all of the guidance is about recognizing that silent witnessing presence. Obviously, I sit in this room I'm in here today, which I lightheartedly call the Universal Studio. And obviously, I'm not listening to my own guidance. I just close my eyes and it's instantly silent. So this is an effective point to be at. So if you feel ready for that, Heaven, then give it a go. And
I think I've memorized pretty much what you say anyway, so
okay, well, if you've listened to it for a month, almost certainly you have. So give it a go.
thank you.
See what happens.
Mhm.
You may not need it, and it may take you further, because you've got to the point of recognizing that awareness.
Thank you.
Another aspect that I've talked about on longer live streams, what I'll just mention to you, Heather, is I don't often sort of do this because of the reasons I just said before, but actually there's ultimately two key meditations I use, and really they're both part of the same thing. One is the spheres of light part, and that's what emerged first in 2011. And the simplest version of that meditation, as it was realized back in 2011, is to just be open from your heart to connect with the spheres. That's it. So that's a heart-based intention. You don't even have to have those words repeating in your head. And when I first shared that back in 2011, that's how I was, it came from within to share that. So that's one thing. The infinite silence, which is the realization itself, that first meditation I've just mentioned, the spheres, but is basically an energetic bridge or link to what I refer to as the infinite silence meditation. And the simplest version of that is to be open from your heart to the experience of infinite silence. Just that one line.
So two things to keep in mind.
Yeah. And so this is something you could just simply sit down, close your eyes, and this intention is already there, and see what happens for you.
Thank you.
See what happens. It sounds like you've obviously become very familiar with the meditation, and it's worth now giving this a go, I would say.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Anything else for you, Heather?
That will be it for now. Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Anybody else got a question or something to share? Whether it's from the meditation or some other aspects of your journey. I can't see any hands up at the moment. Okay, so whilst we're just waiting for that, I'll just pick up on something that we looked at in the meditation, and that was, I used some phrasing that we have the experiential choice in this life in the embodied form. It appears that we have this choice. And ultimately, that choice is between, do we go with the headspace or the heart space? Choosing inner peace, in other words, is it a choice? And that's an experiential choice that we have. If we listen to the calling of the heart, the inner knowing that feels inviting, uplifting, expansive, these kinds of energies, the ultimate resolution of that, the ultimate endpoint of that, if you keep on listening, keep on consistently trusting the calling of the heart, it's going to lead you to the realization of the self. We get, in contrast, the head, the identity I, is very noisy, it's very contracting, it's very should, must, ought to. That feels very, very different energetically. I'm sure we can all recognize the vast difference between those two. So by going with that inner, higher invitation of the heart space, the expansiveness, the ultimate conclusion, the ultimate resolution of that is peace, inner peace, and that is the perfume of our very essence. What tends to happen is that we flip it, in the human experience, we tend to sort of flip. Sometimes we're choosing head, sometimes we're choosing heart, sometimes we're choosing head, sometimes we're choosing heart. Or maybe we get an insight that's come to us, whether it's in meditation, in the shower, a feeling, a knowing, I feel like I'm being called to this. And then that feels great at the time. It feels inviting, uplifting, inspiring. This is heart type energy. And then 5 minutes later, 10 minutes later, the next day or whatever, the mind kicks in and starts to try to dissuade you from that. Or stuff apparently crops up that appears to be blocking you. This doesn't mean that the heart was wrong. What that's showing you is that actually now is the time to face that fear, that potential or perceptual block that you've got. And you do that from the space of the silence, from the awareness. You look directly at it, straight in the eye, so to speak. Feel it. If there's emotion there, whatever it is, face it, but trust. Helan's word earlier, trust. Only the awareness, silence, and effortlessly of its own accord, it will dissolve any fear, emotion, whatever it is that's there, and it will just simply, silently fall away. And the example I most often give of that. Hopefully everybody could hear the singing bowl when I dinged it earlier. It's like this. So the noise or the emotion is a vibration. Essentially, that's what it is. So if I tap this now, without any effort on my part, that faded to silence. What we typically do when we identify with what's going up here in the head is basically we keep on putting energy into belief in the train of thought. And it becomes a cacophony, like Stefan was experiencing earlier. But when we trust the silent awareness, the infinite silence, the vibrations fall away. And every emotion, every block that you're experiencing is just a vibration that can be seen, witnessed by the silent awareness. This silent awareness has no problem with any of it. And it not only can it see it, if you just close your eyes all now just for a moment, I'll ask you a couple of key questions. What is it that can see or witness whatever's here now? Be it an emotion, a feeling, a sensation. Who or what is that? Don't try and answer that from the mind, just be with that. And is that which sees, witnesses, notices the phenomena affected in any way by the phenomena? Or does it just watch neutrally, silently, effortlessly? The answer to the first question is awareness. The awareness of infinite silence. And the answer to the second question, is it affected, is no. Ultimately, no. It just simply, silently, effortlessly witnesses, watches. And that, my friends, is the essence of meditation. Awareness is the essence of meditation, that's all. It also, great news here, is the essence of self-realization. the recognition, the realization that this unchanging, unmoving, unblemished presence of awareness, infinite silence, I use the terms interchangeably, is always here. Always here. And your essence is always it. So it turns out it's profoundly simple. Profoundly simple. Because that which you are seeking is that which you already are. It's only a matter of realizing it. And it's not a case of when is this going to be, if this is going to be realized. Not a case of if this is going to be realized. It's only a matter of when. And it can be in this lifetime or another. And that comes back to following the inner calling, the choice of the head or the heart. The more we focus on that, the more we open to this realization. Just like that. I'll just pause here for a moment just to see if there's anything from what I've been sharing or anything else we've explored so far. Anybody wants to ask about that? Did everybody see? Was it seen what I was pointing at? It is profoundly simple. Profoundly simple. And so it turns out the purpose of all spiritual practice, you've probably all heard spiritual practice, meditate, inquire. These are two aspects of the same thing. The purpose of all spiritual practice ultimately is so you don't have to practice at being that which you truly are. Because your essence is already it. Your essence is already it. That doesn't mean, as the self is realized, you won't sit down and meditate. I do every day. But what it does mean is that all the practices are like bridges. When the practice ends, meditation begins as a practice, something that you are doing, but eventually it transcends into the realization. It is that which you already are, a living meditation, a living meditation. And so, this is when the striving, the reaching, the stretching comes to an end. And it's just simply, effortlessly, silently here. Oh my gosh, I am that. that being infinite, infinite silence, infinite awareness. You're here. You're here for this. Let's just pause again just to see if anybody's got anything. This is your opportunity.
We've got Stefan wanting to ask something.
Go on, Stefan.
Yes, I had, when you mentioned that if anyone noticed anything when you asked the questions, I realized I had this question because quite often now I get messages from the inner voice. So it told me, yes, I am the only one who observes and things like that. But it's, I'm not sure exactly how to explain, because you talk about inner knowing. But for me, it's more like it's an intercom system or something. Something tells me the answer, and it comes into my thoughts.
Yes.
But the understanding is not there. The words are there, but I don't have the understanding or understanding. It's more like someone dictates it for me, and I realize it comes from the silence, but it's not integrated. I think that is the word I'm trying to express.
Sure.
So I'm not sure if I would call this inner knowing. It's more that it's inner knowledge.
Okay, so
So I hear it, and I can hear that, oh yes, it sounds right, but it's not really me.
not really. What did you say? Last bit there.
It's like, well,
Not really.
I realize it comes from me, but it's more like I'm hearing it.
Okay.
So it's, I mean, it's like there would have been a voice on the television or something that tells me that, and I can recognize, oh yes, that's it, but it was not my voice. It's just something that appears to me.
I understand. Okay, I follow that. So this is definitely the way you're describing it and expressing it. This, it's like almost this comes out of nowhere, or now here, and it this is coming from the awareness as an inner message, an affirmation or confirmation, or a clarification or an insight. Now this is very different. I'm sure you spotted this, Stefan, from a typical thought. You know, it energetically it's very different. You know, a sentence or an insight, a clarification, a confirmation, affirmation. Suddenly, just
Yeah, it's not an ego thought, but it's still, it appears like a regular thought, but it's I can feel that there's truth in it.
Yeah, there you go. So that's the difference. You can feel that there's truth in it.
It's like you say, it's not heavy, it's very light, uplifting.
Yes, very light and uplifting.
And there's no limitations in it.
Yeah, so that's that's the difference. Listen carefully, not only Stefan here, but to everybody. The difference between what I would refer to as insight and inspiration, something that's arising from within, and a traditional thought. The inspiration, the insight, the affirmation, the confirmation feels light. There's a sense of truth that comes with it. It feels right. There's a sort of knowing that you can't really put words to about
Yeah,
it.
but like I feel that there are really no boundaries there. It's more like, yes, everything is possible. That's a message when asked if there can I do that? Yes, of course, is the answer.
Perfect. Perfect. So that energetically you're describing very well the difference between inspiration, insight, inspiration, something from awareness, silence, and thought on the other hand, which is heavier, contracting, must, should, ought to, this kind of energy. So this first one that's inspiring, uplifting, feels truthful, this one you can trust. This one you can trust. The other stuff you can set aside. This doesn't mean that you don't take account of the practicalities of life and so forth. Actually, all of that gets taken into account in the insight. So the light, uplifting, inspiring, inviting, truthful feeling energy, this you can trust. The other stuff is noise from the identity. Now, the reason you said you don't necessarily fully understand it yet is because the process of integration is happening. But the more that, going back to our trust word, the more that you trust that insight, that inspiration, and go with it, what will happen over time is it will be integrated, and it won't be so much understanding, it will be that phrase I use, inner standing. It hasn't come from intellectual knowledge. It's come from experiential realization. And that's why I make the distinction between inner standing, inner knowing, excuse me, and knowledge and understanding. There isn't ultimately anything for you to learn about ultimate truth. And the reason for that is because your essence is already it. It's a realization. That word in self-realization, realization is very important. Oh my gosh. It was already known. I am that. I am that. So you're not learning this, you're realizing it. It is being realized more accurately. It is being realized.
Okay, and like I see, you answered very well my real question, which I didn't realize I had before, that the messages come to me, and as you said, it's been integrated, which is a process until it's part of me.
Yeah, exactly.
So I had the idea that, okay, shouldn't I hear it like it came from me, but it's more like someone is dictating it for me right now, and I just accept it that this is the way, and it really opens me up, and I can see that this seems to lead to limitlessness. So let's just go and see what happens.
Exactly that. And you're sort of saying it's not coming from me, but the me that you're talking about there is the identity me.
Yes.
Whereas where this is coming from is that which you truly are, which isn't a me. It's a non-personal awareness. Big difference.
Yeah, but it's kind of spooky anyway that it just appears in my mind from somewhere, and I realize it's from my real self.
Yeah, the true essence, yes, your true self. Yeah. And only spooky to the mind, though. Only spooky to the identity. This is actually much more natural than a thought process, catching the train of thought, which will take you to many stations, none of which are your truth. So actually it's very natural for this clarity, this message, this seeing, whether it be a visual, like some of the stuff that Helan was sharing earlier, or a sentence. It can appear in many ways, and you can tell energetically the difference, and this you can trust. Okay, Stefan?
Yes, thank you very much.
You're welcome. So anybody else, do take the opportunity, folks, if you've got something to ask or share. So one of the key things that comes from that, and what Stefan's just shared and what Helan was sharing earlier as well, this trust word is very important, because when we trust the inner space, the inner calling, as I said before, we open to the highest form of trust, which is the knowing, the realizing. The other thing which relates more directly to what Stefan was just sharing there was that the mind is always going to want to try to get this, to understand this, and even to try and control this process. The mind is always, the ego mind identity is always trying to control life, trying to keep itself safe. Whereas actually, from the perspective of self-realization, it's most effective to be open to, and this might sound strange, I know nothing. I know nothing. The identity I knows nothing about ultimate truth. It just cannot perceive or conceive of it. And within that acceptance of that, the humility of that acceptance of that, that opens a space for awareness, silence to come to the front and center stage. You may think and believe that you know what life's about and all the rest of it, and been conditioned into many things, but when we open to this, the truth that the identity I know is nothing, this is a very big opening to inner wisdom, inner knowing, the realization of the self. This I know nothing is a very important pointing. In fact, I think one of the earlier Zoom calls that's on YouTube this year, certainly on Insight Timer as well, there are streams where I ask this question in the meditation: what if I know nothing? This is a very key inquiry that you can ask yourself to snap yourself back to awareness. What if I know nothing? And the kinds of responses I get over the years of sharing this message with people when they open to that is it's a liberating feeling. A kind of relief and liberating feeling. Because the identity I is always trying to control and manage life, whereas life itself is just simply choosing to express itself through your form, like this, like this. So anything for anybody else? Not so many questions tonight by the looks. Oh, Heather again, yeah. Off you go, Heather.
I figured out how to raise my hand.
Well done.
You mentioned inquiries, and I might have been fiddling with my camera and not heard your answer. But you're talking about meditating and inquiring. So the kinds of questions you use to inquire would be such as, what do I know?
Okay, so meditation and inquiry, although that we've got two different labels, meditation and inquiry, the fundamental spiritual inquiry is this: who am I? That's it. Who am I? Now, there's an insight I wrote down for people many years ago that goes like this: who am I? The question dissolves the questioner, and the self is realized. Every question that people have ever asked me over the last decade or more about self-realization all boil down to that one question: who am I? The ultimate resolution of that question is self-realization. And the one that has the question is the identity I, the ego mind I. The self has no questions. Now, I often integrate in guiding in meditation, who am I type questions, and there are many variations. You can just simply ask, who am I? For some people that's enough. For others, some variations upon that are useful, like, who am I without knowledge? There's a Zoom call on my YouTube channel from earlier this year with that one. Who am I without knowledge? Who am I without belief? Who am I with nothing to prove? Who am I without time? There are variations upon this, and those variations are helpful because what they identify when I integrate them into a meditation as an inquiry, they tend to bring stuff up for people, either a clarity, a seeing, or maybe a hidden fear that then gets dissolved because we're resting in awareness. So if you want to explore those a bit further, Heather, on my YouTube channel, there's the Zoom calls that we've been having this year. Each one of those has got one of those types of questions in it. And they're called, the titles of them are Self-Realisation Zoom. No, I think they've got the question and then Self-Realisation Zoom Calls. When I send out the follow-up to this, I'll include a couple of them in the follow-up email. They can be integrated into any meditation, or even as you go about your day, you can just simply close your eyes for a moment and either simply ask, who am I? Or you could just go, who am I without belief? And just see what comes. The question can be asked inside a few times if necessary. You don't need to think about it. The invitation here is not to think about what the answer to that is. It's to realize what the answer is. So just be with it. Meditation, inquiry are thus not two separate things. They're different. They're both part of the bigger whole of what true meditation is, which is awareness. So it's helpful to integrate these kinds of inquiries into a meditation. But even as you're going about your daily work, chores, or whatever it is, you can pause for a few moments and go, who am I? Or who am I without belief? Or who am I with nothing to prove? And just be with that. There are many variations upon the question, but it's a meditation in itself. Does that help you, Heather?
It does. Does one expect an answer?
Try not, you may or may not get something arising. Don't try and think about it, is what I'd say. Just be with it.
Okay.
And if something comes, like Stefan was referring to in his sharing a few moments ago, embrace that. But if it's coming from the mind, it will feel very, very different from awareness. So don't be, should we say, stretching or reaching for an answer. Just rest with the inquiry. If something comes, great. And if something doesn't come, also great. Just see what emerges. Just see what emerges. Okay, Heather?
Over and out.
Good. Thank you so much, folks, and see you all in a month's time.